You can see our reporter Ellie Roper has just joined us on set to talk all things WSL. Welcome along to you. We've got the Manchester derby today as well, but we're going to start with Arsenal because I know you were at the press conference, weren't you, when they announced Rennie Slegger as their permanent manager. Popular choice amongst the players. Was it expected?
I mean, I think you'd have to say she was the red-hot favourite, right?
Yeah.
She's been in charge since October when Jonas Eidevall resigned, and she's had a fantastic run, overseen 11 matches, unbeaten in that time, winning 10 of them. So, I mean, you never know, do you? We got wind on Thursday night that Arsenal were going to make the announcement. And, yeah, confirmation that she's been given the job on a permanent basis. I understand from Arsenal that it wasn't just a case of she's done a fantastic job during her time in charge, but actually that she was brilliant during the interview process. They said they got it down to 5 people, and that she was the standout performer during the recruitment process. So they're really happy with the appointment. And I popped inside. I arrived at the training ground, popped inside, and I could hear cheering, celebrations, and I later found out that that was the moment that the team had been given the news. So they're clearly really pleased with her appointment as well. Yeah,
I remember listening to one of the players just talk at length about how wonderful she was. So, and they wanted her to stay. And so, okay, that's what they've got. What they want. Will Rangers and Celtic get what they want? Because there's kind of a lot of talk at the moment. It certainly hasn't been ratified and anything's been said like that. But reports this week emerging that Celtic and Rangers potentially could join the WSL. What have you heard?
Yeah, it's interesting. As you mentioned, they're still in the early stages. Just an idea, we understand at the moment. A really interesting one, and it's certainly something that's got everyone talking. Now, we understand that there's been no formal approach to the Scottish FA, but it's been interesting hearing reaction over the last few days from various managers about what this might look like, how it could work, travel, you know, being one suggestion, something to think about. What other teams in the WSL think about it, what other teams in Scotland have to think about it.
Has that reaction been positive or negative?
I would say it's been pretty mixed. We can play you a couple of clips in a moment. I think, yeah, pretty mixed. People want more information, understandably, about how it would work, whether there'll be protection from relegation. And why don't we hear now, starting with Sonia Bompard, here are her thoughts.
On the pros, maybe I would say, having these two teams joining the WSL, they are two big brands and it will be probably good. But on the cons, do you say cons? Probably not good, for their country, because they are, again, big brands. And I think, for their country, it's better to keep them. But again, I think it's an early stage.
I've always pushed to say it'd be nice to have a few more teams to create a little bit more competition, and obviously so that it doesn't feel like when you draw a game it feels like a defeat, and sometimes losing a game is not going to cost you the WSL title. So I've always pushed for more teams. That logistically is, I think, when you bring teams from Scotland, I think it brings logistical kind of issues. And then, of course, what happens to kind of relegation? You know, are these teams like bulletproof in that sense? What do they go back to if they are relegated? Do they drop to the Championship? I think there's a lot to consider within it.
Well, that's a really good talking point, isn't it? There is huge ramifications here, not least that actually those two teams potentially aren't the best in Scotland at the moment. Glasgow City might have a lot to say about that, Hibernian as well. The Championship teams that are, you know, below the WSL, they might have a lot to say about this. I'm not trying to be negative Nelly, but there's also the plastic pitches up in Scotland as well. So and there's plenty to think about. And you wonder whether there's a little bit of, they tried this in the men's game. They try it and they get it ratified, if they did, in the women's game. And then that's another precursor for the men's game to say, hang on a minute, they're doing it in the women's game. So there's lots to talk about here. There are other people that have had their say on this week as well.
Yeah, and I point to my notes here because I've got some quotes here. I mean, I asked Rennie Slegger about it on Friday. Yeah. She didn't want to say too much. She said for her it's about working out what is the opportune number of teams to have in the WSL so that it's as competitive as possible. And actually the Celtic boss, Elena Sadiku, she was asked about it. This is what she had to say. Is it nice to play against Arsenal and Chelsea? Yes, it is. But I think we're doing just fine in Scotland for now. How can we make sure we're the best team in Scotland? That is our only focus. But it does feed into this conversation about relegation and whether the league becomes ring-fenced is also proving a big part of the conversation.
Do you think it's more... I was really struck by the use of the word brands in that, rather than clubs in that clip we just saw there. And do you think this is all going to be decided by the commercial power of those brands? I don't want to call them that, but that's what they were referred to.
Yeah.
It feels very
WSL.
American and about the brands involved, and in talking about Rangers and Celtic, it feels like that's what they're reaching for, right? Rather than let's just have the best teams in Scotland, let's get the biggest brands. And that's, I mean, what they do in the States. It's a closed league there for the women, no relegation.
And does that kill the competition, do you think, Ellie?
It's a really good question because, you know, what we want is for a strong WSL. Would that make it stronger? Or would, as you say, would it just be a precursor to maybe that happening in the men's game and everyone's trying to float it to see what the temperature's like without actually thinking about the long-term well-being of the WSL itself?
I mean, I think if you stop relegation in any league, it does ultimately dilute the product and get rid of that competition, which was why we all watch sport, right? We love the jeopardy. And if you get rid of that, it surely will have a knock-on effect on the product, in my view.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Would you, Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with football. You know, in general.
To quote Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, do you know what I am? I've probably been listening to him to any press conferences, but I do find myself agreeing with him in the sense that there's not really much been wrong. I think of all of those kind of really special moments of relegation and promotion and all of the things those memories of football fans you would lose out on for any kind of scrapping of relegation. Yeah, I just can't see it. I think we've heard some of these ideas before in previous years and all these other wild ideas, and eventually it just turns into another debate and everyone moves on to something else. So that's what it feels like. But if there is a lot of talking to be done on it, if you can, as ever, weigh up the pros and cons and see what comes out on top.
Yeah, they are very much in initial stages. Certainly nothing has been confirmed by anything. I think the SFA certainly wouldn't vote in favour.
I mean, they have come out and said it's not something they would support.
No.
We know that much.
Yeah,
So we wait to see.
So it might take a long time to get through. Let's talk about the WSL because it is back and with a cracking game as well, the Manchester Derby. How important is this game for both these teams? I think both of them have got players coming back.
Yeah, I mean, definitely both have struggled with injury, but in action today. Kick-off 6:45. Coverage will start from 6:30 on Sky Sports. But you mentioned the injuries. We've got the return of Vivian Miedemar, Ella Toone also back for United. Both did feature in FA Cup action, but obviously not been in WSL action for a while now. So exciting matchup. I mean, lots to talk about in terms of the actual game. Gareth Taylor has said he has challenged his players to win every game now until the rest of the season, which does feel like a tall order. He's saying even if they were to win every match, still can't guarantee catching Chelsea and getting their hands on the WSL title. But he says that's the only way that they are to stand any chance of catching them, if they are to win every game between now and the end of the season.
And is Sonia Bompard becoming the Arne Slot of the... I say that because it's been seamless. Everyone was talking about Emma Hayes and, oh my goodness, everyone talked about Jurgen Klopp, oh my goodness, he's going to go and what's going to happen. And here we are, we've got Sonia Bompard that just comes in and it's just all easy as
You're right.
1, 2, 3.
I mean, what a tall act to follow.
Yeah.
You know, huge shoes to fill in Emma Hayes. Such an amazing character in the game, but also achieved so much. But like you say, seamless. I find her fascinating, amazing. I've loved going to Chelsea and getting the opportunity to chat to her. So relaxed. For someone who has achieved so much, she's so chilled, so lovely to chat to, so down to earth, but also so ambitious and just so relaxed about it. I mean, winning just expected for her. So unapologetic in coming here and saying, well, yeah, of course we want to win the Champions League. What do you think we're doing? And it's so interesting watching her carry out her press conferences because, like I say, she's so chilled and speaking multiple languages as well, not just even English and French, taking questions for the Champions League, Portuguese, no problem.
Impressive.
So, yeah, such an impressive woman. Yeah.
The brand. Look, in terms of Emma Hayes, has the chat died down as well? You know, because, like I say, it was huge shoes to fill, wasn't it, for her?
Yeah. It's similar, as you say, to Jurgen Klopp, Arne Slot. You feel like you ultimately then stop talking about what's happened.
Yeah.
And it does very much become about the here and now and the future. And it's exciting to see what they're going to achieve under Bompard. But you do feel like the sky's the limit for Chelsea with her in charge. Yeah.
What's realistic, do you think, for them? Just finally, Ellie.
I think it's all realistic.
Really?
I just feel like if there's a woman to do it, she is the woman. I would not want to cast doubt on anything that she sets her mind to, having been there to Chelsea.
Yeah.
So
impressed
impressive. Yeah.
No pressure, Sonia.
Yeah. Hope she's watching. Right, just a reminder, you can see that huge Manchester derby as City welcome United to the Etihad live on Sky Sports, as Ellie was saying, a 6:45 kick-off there.